Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so some interesting news from today. Zohran Mamdani's meeting with Donald Trump happened in the Oval Office, and it went differently than most people expected. It was a surprising turn of events. They seem to get along well. They seem to have a meeting about how they can collaborate, and Trump made it pretty clear that he's going to help Mamdani or plans to help Mamdani. So we'll see how that goes. And this has been confusing across the political spectrum. I haven't seen too many people on the left who are upset that Mamdani had a more friendly type of meeting and showing with Trump, although I'm sure they're out there. That's one of the takes one can have, especially if you sort of examine the stakes in different ways. But for the most part, people seem to understand this for what it is, in my opinion, which is a show of strength on the part of Mamdani. I talked about this yesterday, the morning of the meeting, before we knew what happened. And I was saying that, you know, this idea of I'm going to go there and use it as an opportunity to talk to the president about what it means to make New York more affordable. I was kind of saying that doesn't seem like it's going to cut it. You kind of got to come to the table with Trump willing to tough talk a little bit more than that, I would think. But it seems like that strategy worked. And the right, though, you see the Fox News right, definitely struggling to process why Trump would have such a warm reception of him. So here's Hannity talking about this and struggling to process it a little bit. And then we'll get into breaking down this meeting and some of the other stuff that's going on.
But we do begin this Friday night with a frightening sight, a devout communist inside the Oval Office. You don't see this every day, behind the resolute desk on the very same day that the U.S. Congress voted to condemn socialism. Now, thankfully, he was standing beside President Trump. Now, New York City Mayor-elect Zohran, as we affectionately call him, Commie Marxist Mamdani, was there and asked to meet with President Trump. The president graciously accepted, despite some pretty harsh smears leveled by Mamdani on the campaign trail against President Trump. Here's a reminder.
Just days ago, you referred to President Trump as a despot who had betrayed the country. You said you'd be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together.
Been called a lot worse. Now, this could be a lesson for Democrats. Now, the president will put aside political differences, work with anyone, anywhere, anytime to make every corner of our country a better place. Take a listen.
We've just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against, a lot of smart people. We talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built, and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down. Anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York. And we've got them down, way down from last year. I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have, hopefully, a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Now, ultimately, this video of Mamdani and Trump in the Oval Office getting along, having a productive meeting is really only horrifying for Democrats. Where's the guy that was on the campaign trail saying he's going to beat Donald Trump's worst nightmare? Now their far-left hero is shaking hands with the guy they called a fascist and a Nazi and a racist. That's got to be very confusing for them.
All right, so it's interesting here that he didn't want to show the part where Mamdani's pressed on the idea that he has called Trump a fascist and whether or not he is reaffirming that he thinks that. I'll play that clip for you real quick.
I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it.
Yeah, so that was genuinely kind of weird, I'll be honest. I think Mamdani, when he just kind of goes, okay, sure, yes, I think he's kind of acting on instinct there. It was sort of a delicate moment because he is in an odd position here where the best outcome when it comes to New York and getting what he needs for his mayorship is to have a good relationship with Trump or for this meeting to have gone well. And yet it is true that he's had a lot of harsh words about Donald Trump, and the coalition that he put together does not have many fond feelings for Donald Trump. So then being asked, well, do you think that Trump is a fascist? The answer still is yes. It does seem like Zohran was going to go in a different direction, which Fox News has also framed it that way in different instances. But it does kind of challenge this narrative that Hannity is trying to throw out there that this is a loss for the left or for Zohran because people must be confused about why he would be talking to this guy who was a fascist and a racist and a Nazi. And there's some truth to that, except for the fact that earlier in the same segment, Sean Hannity opens it by calling him a communist, Marxist, blah, blah, blah. The contradiction is quite literally built into the script that he's reading off of. So at that point, it has to be on purpose or kind of the goal of what they're doing. It's possible that by contradicting themselves so openly like that, they sort of bypass some of the critical thinking of their audience, perhaps. Maybe that's just a thing that works for them. Obviously, that's part of the Fox News brand at this point, but I just thought it would be interesting to point out. Because really, they are the ones who, there's no possible reason that if Mamdani is the things that Trump has been saying that he is, and they have been saying he is, that Trump would have him in the Oval Office. And he started by saying, this is a horrifying sight. And yet he presents no argument to his audience about why it was okay or positive that Trump did this. For Mamdani, the power balance is clear here. He needs federal funding for New York. And that's not just to get the stuff done that he wants to get done, that's also to stay at the level of services that currently exist in New York City so that people don't start to take a degradation in those services as Mamdani's fault. That's one of the major places that Trump has leverage over Mamdani. So I was saying that Mamdani needs to have some leverage in this situation. He needs to be able to come to the table with Trump to say, this is why you should give me what I want. And it seems like he's done that. It seems like his general charm has gotten him pretty far. At this point, further than anybody would have thought. Trump can be wishy-washy like this, where one day he'll love you and then the next day he's gonna trash you, and that's what Al Sharpton apparently said that he told Mamdani beforehand. So it's possible that this meeting means nothing and that Trump will just go back to calling him names and things will get bad at some point. But there's a couple interesting key points here. First of all, when it comes to crime and immigration, they both said that came up and that they talked about that a lot. And I think that is one of the key points here, because they also mentioned this stuff about affordability and blah, blah, blah. But I see the connection less between what Trump is able to do and what Zohran wants to do. There's some overlap, but most of Zohran's agenda in New York has to do with Albany and passing laws there. So the thing that it strikes me that they have more to talk about and where there was more room for some kind of huge confrontation here is immigration, because that is the grounds on which Zohran has been saying, I'm going to fight you every step of the way, and you better know that you can't come to New York with that kind of thing. And so it seems like it would have been impossible to get around that in this meeting. And it seems like that may be where he asserted some leverage, not perhaps in a combative way, but in a way of saying, this is how I can work with you. this thing he says about how there are 170 specific violent or serious crimes that allow his administration to work with the administration. That's an important thing he said there, because really the federal government, if somebody's committing some kind of serious crime that is in their purview, they can go after that person. You know, they don't really need Mamdani's administration to give them permission on that, but perhaps they would need assistance in some cases. But really what it seems to me that he's saying is that these are cases where my administration can coordinate with you so that you can target the ICE operations towards people who are criminals in that way and not civilians in New York City. So it's possible that he's taking that approach to try to thread the needle here with Trump to say, I can offer you assistance in getting some of these people that you say you want to be getting while protecting normal, average, everyday people in New York. Now, the only thing that could be concerning about that, as I've noted before, this whole thing about Jessica Tisch and Zohran Mamdani wanting to keep Jessica Tisch on, Trump specifically praises Jessica Tisch here, says that he has a great police commissioner. So that's an important thing to note about the fact that they're getting along swimmingly here. And I think there's a lot of people on the opposite end of the political spectrum who are pleased by the pick to keep Jessica Tisch on as police commissioner. And one thing that Ken Klippenstein has pointed out that I've also mentioned is that one of the things that Jessica Tisch is in favor of is funding for these programs that are more about detecting crime when it's going to happen, more so than crimes that have already happened. So in other words, not people who are guilty of crimes, but people who are suspected of being criminals or suspected of potentially being criminals. That's the type of program that Jessica Tisch has argued for during her tenure, and why Ken Klippenstein was saying that it is a worrisome pick. And so when Zohran mentions these 170 crimes, there is a read on that situation that what he's saying is we can help you preemptively find some of the people that you're looking for, people that aren't necessarily convicted criminals, but might fit a certain profile or be in some kind of database for that. And we can give you that information so that you can arrest them if you will not stage these dramatic, barbaric raids. So that is concerning if that is Mamdani being willing to lead into this sort of preemptive policing style thing, because that is what Jessica Tisch has argued for in the past as a means to secure some kind of agreement with Trump. And I'm not saying that is what's going on here. I'm picking up on a couple loose threads across different information that I've seen, but it's one of the things that I could see Zohran offering to Trump to make him more affable in this way that he is, because there's really not that many things. That's the reality of the situation. Trump has all the leverage and Zohran doesn't have much. But I was thinking that whatever leverage he would have would come from that sort of broader policing apparatus that exists there, not on the ground NYPD, but this sort of like terrorist network and stuff. And it seems like that's the angle that he used to negotiate with Trump. But all in all, I mean, I think this was a good meeting, and it's good that Zohran was able to start off on this note, if for no other reason than it's so shocking to people and shows, you know, what level of talent this guy has. I wasn't really expecting that this was going to be the type of meeting that this was, and I think that that says a lot about Zohran's ability to stay on message and find the right way to approach a conversation with somebody. So, in other news, Marjorie Taylor Greene is retiring. This is crazy timing for this because this happened on the same day. Later this same day, Marjorie Taylor Greene came out, said she's resigning after this term, which is going to be over in January. So as soon as this January, just soon enough for her pension to kick in, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be resigning because she said that she doesn't want to subject her district to a brutal primary, which is coming because she's distanced herself from Trump, in her words, just to win and then have Republicans end up losing their majority anyway. That seemed to be her prediction for where things are going, which I thought was fascinating. She also goes through a long laundry list of all the things that she's done. If you really find yourself feeling too many warm feelings about Marjorie Taylor Greene, just watch her video about this, because she goes into detail of all the horrible things she's done throughout her career and makes it clear that she stands on 99% of that. But she also makes this compelling case that the fact that she's standing up for these Epstein survivors and demanding transparency on that shouldn't be leading to her getting hounded out of politics like this. And it is interesting because that's exactly what's happening. And this has happened before. This has happened to many of Trump's opponents, including a Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. And, this is kind of the understood path of crossing Trump, is that he's going to force you out of politics. She mentions death threats, that by saying things like she's a traitor, that puts her life at risk, etc., which she has been happily participating in since she came into office. She's been doing the same thing. To her credit, she has taken a small amount of responsibility for that. She has mentioned that she's participated in that rising political climate. But at the end of the day, she still stands firm on all of these positions. And in this same moment that Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, you're putting my life at risk by saying this, Donald Trump is calling other Democrats traitors and trying to put as much attention on them as possible when it comes to the Epstein files. So obviously there's no stop in sight to the Trumpism, right? You just yet another person getting ground under the wheels of Trumpism, even though she was one of the major participants in it. But also what you're seeing here with that specifically is this kind of trivialization of language, that is a very key part of the Trump movement, that by making, calling people traitors, calling for jailing of political opponents, calling people communists, Marxists, terrorists, that sort of thing, you normalize that type of phraseology and you make those type of terror attacks and murder attempts more common. That has been the result of Trump entering the political arena and using language like this. And they don't really believe it. And it's going to go away. That narrative is going to go away now a little bit because Trump kind of poured cold water on it. We'll see. He might still keep calling him a communist just for fun, and then that'll kind of keep that going. But, he was asked, do you think you're standing next to a jihadist? He said no. And a lot of the people who are directly in the wake of whatever Trump says in terms of their buzz and their internet clickability are the ones who have been spreading that narrative. And just like Fox News, Sean Hannity, he still has to keep saying these things even though Trump has directly contradicted him on it. And the reality is that Mamdani did a good job of focusing on this affordability thing and seemed to even be able to get Donald fucking Trump to focus by doing that. So props to him on that. We'll see where all of this goes. Definitely isn't going to be that easy for him, but we'll see. And hopefully not too many concessions were made in the course of a meeting like that. But if you ask me, Mamdani was projecting a lot of strength.
Pressure getting pressed, do you feel it now? What even happens next, I don't really know. Voice carries less, can you hear me now? Soon as I get blessed, time's running out. Pressure getting pressed. Pressure getting pressed. Feel the pressure getting pressed. Yeah. Pressure, do you feel it now?